want to share with you today a little bit about what we bring to the table as Microsoft, the transformation we're going through. I recognize the irony of Microsoft here at an open source community event, and I'm really proud to do that, and I'm humbled and privileged to feel that we can be in a stage with Red Hat to share our story. So I want to share our story, and I want to talk about what we're building together with Red Hat, and that's really kind of the meat of what today's about. So with that, I want to start with our mission. And for many of you who know Microsoft, you would know that we had a new leader join us in 2014, Satya Nadella. I've been with Microsoft off and on since 2005. I've seen 3 leaders come and go, Bill, Steve, and Satya. I've seen 3 very different companies. We're in an amazing place right now with a leader like Satya who really understands what it means to think about where we need to be for our customers, to really transform the company from being essentially the proprietary software company to being an open source company. And I say that with my hand on my heart in a very serious way. We are an open source company. We are committed to open source, we're committed to Red Hat, and we're committed to continuing our engagement and our support of broad open source community through a range of technologies, not least of which GitHub is one of those. So when we think about this mission, this is the mission that Satya put on us, which was to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Let me try and kind of put that into context of how we, or at least I, internalize that thinking, which is it's about democratizing access. As a company, our vision is to democratize access to technology so that the rich power of AI, of data platforms, of services and tools and technologies, whether they be ours, our competitors, our partners, open source, non-open source, making sure that all of that technology is available to everybody in the best, most efficient, most cost-effective way. So that democratization, that ability to want to give our customers the tools they need to meet them where they are, I think is very aligned to the way that Red Hat operates and the way that Red Hat thinks as a business. And so I think there's a strong alignment, and that's why we're here today, is to kind of share some of that alignment. But as you've heard from the other speakers today, and you'll continue to hear, and I'm sure many of you would know, we are in an age of digital transformation is the age we live in. Digital transformation is if you're on the good side of the story. Digital disruption is if you're being disrupted on the other side of that story. And the fundamental part that is driving that is the interconnected nature of data. We are all being driven to collect, collate, understand, and then react to data. Data that is coming from sensors, from data streams like our customers, our partners, our services, from the infrastructure we provide, from the tools that we deliver. That data is being created, and we're at a point where we have to understand the connected nature of that data. We have to infer intelligence on that data. So as we connect all these data points together, what we've seen in the cloud world, in the sort of broad public scale cloud, if you like, hyperscale cloud, is this move away from the cloud can no longer just be a place where you store your data and you run low-cost infrastructure and compute. There's no value in that anymore. The cloud has to be a place that allows you to intelligently understand that data, to use infrastructure in a fluid and dynamic way, and the move towards containerization and microservices is absolutely a driver behind that. But a cloud that will take that data and do something useful with it, and probably more importantly, is the ability for that cloud to reach into your business, into your sensors, into your customers, into your tools and devices and apps, and connect the intelligent services in the cloud to the intelligent services you now want to run on micro devices. So we have the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. And as we think about those multiple types of data sources that are connecting together and generating lots and lots of information, we have data. We have lots of data, we want to create knowledge, and as was highlighted in the last session, it's AI that is going to drive that. For me, in my role, when I spend a lot of time talking to customers across any market segment, across any industry, public sector, private sector, small, medium, and large businesses, the drive towards digital transformation is fundamentally because I want to do smarter, better, faster things with my data, and that's around how do I apply AI. And so for Microsoft, a lot of our vision is how do we make AI democratized, and that's the core for us. So while we have that model, I think, and I don't really need to talk to the numbers on this, any of you can read this and really get the understanding that there's no question that digital transformation, if done right, and digital transformation isn't just digitization of your existing services. Digital transformation is rethinking, architecting, refactoring services to operate in an entirely different way. It has a significant and fundamental impact on your ability to be agile and move fast in today's industry. So there's no question about the value of undertaking digital transformation. So how does Microsoft and Red Hat together in our platforms help you do that? Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this slide. It's not really about us and our market share. You will see there's a reference point back to this later on, which is why I bring it up. But I think, I would hope at least most of you, would know that Microsoft has a very broad customer base. A lot of people are using our technology. This can go one of two ways. Hands up, how many people are using Azure today? Oh, thank God for that. It's about 30, 40%. I'll take that as a win. Given the audience and the location, I'm going to take that as a win. So look, that's fantastic, and that's really actually is a telling sign because we know there's a strong correlation between Red Hat's audience and customers and our customers as well. So let me take a few minutes to talk to you about how we think about Azure, because I think most of you would understand, Azure is our public scale, hyperscale cloud platform to provide compute, networking, and various infrastructure paths and SaaS services to you for your consumption and use. Azure started its life 10 years ago now as a product called Azure Red Dog internally in Microsoft. The code name was Red Dog, and it was actually about providing SQL as a platform service. Our first foray into the cloud was SQL as a platform service, not infrastructure. We kind of jumped into PaaS services before everyone was really kind of thinking about what PaaS could be, which has set us up to be, in many ways, future-ready. So when we think about this idea of Azure being the future-ready platform, what we try and think about is, what is your journey to the cloud going to be? We know and we recognize that everybody's journey and entry point into the cloud is different. Everybody's starting point is different, and everybody's speed of movement through that journey is going to be different. So the important thing from our perspective with Azure is how do we build a platform that is future-ready? So we're always innovating at the far end. We're always thinking about how do we bring in services and technologies that make AI, machine learning, data analytics, and data science tools easily available. But how do we also provide all the services to enable you to do the kind of more simplified migrate processes? How do we just simply move workloads to the cloud? The simple lift and shift style piece. And in between that refactoring, that re-architecting. How do we take what we've built traditionally in our VMs or even bare metal and move that up the chain towards containerization, towards functions and microservices? How do we really take advantage of cloud? Because that's where that kicks in. So Azure is a future-ready platform because we have all of these entry points, and as you'll see when I go through this, it's broader than just doing this in the cloud. It also scales from a hybrid perspective as well. This is the one that I'm most excited about. Well, actually, no, I like the last one as well, but this one's pretty exciting too. The build on your terms. So I joined Microsoft in 2005, and there was a point in time when it would be almost unthinkable to think that this was the suite of tools and platforms and services that we have on our platform. Today, I'm very proud to say we have this and many, many more open source development tools and processes and services that we invest in, we support, we work with, we operate on our cloud, as well as our good friends at Red Hat, and of course, the work we continue to do partnering and working with GitHub. And you see I use the word partner with GitHub. We acquired GitHub to create a partner for us in that open source world. As much as we do, we want to invest in them. But Azure is open. If you take one thing away from this today, as this wonderful Red Hat community that you are, it is that Azure today is 50% of what runs in Azure is running on open source platforms. We are not the proprietary Windows company. We are the open source cloud that has a range of services across a whole bunch of tools and technologies. You are not constrained to use things like our Visual Studio services just to develop into Azure. You're not constrained to just use Windows. We can use a range of stuff. But what we also do most importantly is not just make these things available, we integrate them into our tools so that Visual Studio as a platform has evolved so far from where it was as just the C, the C++ and C# development tool into the open platform, multi-language, multi-source technology platform that it is for code development, that we've really transformed this company. So Azure is an open source platform, an open source stack. What tools you need to use, where you want to use them, as most appropriate for your business. So I mentioned hybrid earlier on in one of the other slides, and this is kind of odd, the guy from the cloud company talking about, well, don't actually put everything in the cloud. But that's the reality is we know, and that's the legacy, the wonderful legacy we have of being around for so long, is that we have a legacy that streams back into the non-cloud world. We recognize that actually things like latency, regulatory requirements, sensitivity of data, speed of access, performance, or just simply the business that you're in is going to require you to have some of your infrastructure running at the edge, on a device, a mobile device, containerized device, an IoT device, or whatever it may be. So pretty much everything we build from our Azure model downwards in terms of services is available in the cloud, on the edge, or on a micro device. So we have things like, obviously, Azure in the public cloud is probably widely known. We have Azure Stack. If you want to take the cloud and run the cloud on a dedicated piece of hardware in your data center, Azure Stack will do that for you. If you want to take advantage of hardware you already have, but bring some of that cloud fabric model onto your own hardware, we have Azure HCI, Azure Hyperconverged Infrastructure, where you can bring Azure onto existing hardware. And then we have Azure Sphere and Azure IoT services. In fact, Azure Sphere, for those that don't know, Azure Sphere is our very first open source, Linux-based, GitHub published operating system built by Microsoft for IoT micro devices. So you can go download and use that, but it's for Microsoft, that's a big step forward, that we're now actually not just contributing to the open source, we're creating new open source. So for us, hybrid is about making sure that you can do the things you need to do, where you need to do them, on whatever platform you need to do it. And of course, containerization, the ability to move AI and machine learning services to do ML cognition on the edge as well is a big area of investment for us. And last, but as I said, not least, and whilst I said build on your own terms was my favorite, this is probably the most important one that we think about as a company. One thing that Satya has put into us as a mindset is we have to earn trust every single day. We don't have your trust, we earn your trust every day. And this is where I think about Microsoft and Red Hat coming together. You all use Red Hat today because you trust it, it provides you stability, it provides that wonderful blend of open source innovation and enterprise stability of a platform. And that connection point is a really solid point for us to think about where we and Red Hat have shared goals and shared visions for what's important in the IT world. So trust for us is absolutely about how we earn your trust by how we show up, how we talk, how we recognize where we need to be humble and where we need to think about what our platform really means to our customers. But it also means practical steps like putting an infrastructure everywhere you need it to be. So we have Azure regions. We have four Azure regions here in Australia, in Sydney, Melbourne, and in Canberra, 2 in each. We have investments in our DLM unclassified and our protected level services for government data services. We have a range of capabilities, so we have the infrastructure here in Australia to ensure you have that onshore functionality that you need. We run and operate a whole series of tools and services and people infrastructure around what we call our CDOCs, our Cyber Defense Operations Centers. We are 24/7 by 365 monitoring not just the services we run, but monitoring largely the entire internet. We are obviously one of the largest targets on the internet for various malicious attacks. We're monitoring about 3 billion signals a day in terms of what comes through our systems across all the services, everything from Xbox to Hotmail. And we provide all of that insight to you as customers through the Azure services. That's the security guidance, the security viewpoint, security portals, and security management tools you get in Azure. And then compliance across a range of compliances. Obviously, we continue to strive to be ISO and IRAP and various compliant services across our cloud. So with all of that heritage in terms of what we've built with Azure, coming together with Red Hat kind of became a bit of a no-brainer when we kind of thought about, well, how do we want to make it easier for customers to use and adopt Red Hat services, in particular OpenShift. We want to build on the trust that we want to earn and the trust that you have in Red Hat today, and we want to create these stable, scalable, simple-to-use environments as we work together. So I said to you earlier on, I'd reflect back on that slide earlier about the Fortune 500. So whilst 95% of the Fortune 500 uses Azure today, 100% of these core industries in the Fortune 500 use Red Hat. So we know that Red Hat customers are Microsoft customers. And we want to think about, well, how do we make that better for both of them? How do we make sure that the Red Hat customers can get the best out of Azure, and the Azure customers can understand the benefits of what Red Hat and its tools bring to them? So we could have just done that by saying, you know what, Red Hat, give us your tools, we'll put them in the catalog, we'll stick them in the cloud, anyone can just fire them up and use them, and away we go. That wouldn't have really made much difference to anyone. You could use them, but kind of, we needed to go a bit further. So what we thought about was, how do we invest in engineering? How do we co-build products together rather than just take Red Hats and put it on our cloud? How do we think about the real challenges of running that? If you're a customer running these two services, how do we make it easy for you to get support, maintenance, and updates and management ongoing? How do we think about what do we have that could really help Red Hat and OpenShift and the services we've built in the cloud around security, around networking, around identity. That's where we thought about. That's what we said, okay, let's build something different to just lift and shift or move your Red Hat into the cloud. Let's create a new offering, which you heard alluded to earlier on, which is, I forget, you guys have as many acronyms as we do, but I think you call it ARO, Azure Red Hat OpenShift. So we have a range of technologies today. So obviously, OpenShift is what I'm going to speak mostly about in terms of what we've just built together. But we still have the range of management tools, Enterprise Linux, SQL Server on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and of course, at the other end of town, SAP HANA, SAP HANA on Azure using RHEL as the platform. So we have a range of services and tools built natively into the Azure portal for you to use today that are built on Red Hat services. But as I said, OpenShift is the one that we've done a significant amount of co-engineering work on today that I want to share with you because it really changes the way in which you can, the benefit and the speed and the agility and the simplicity you can get from deploying an OpenShift Kubernetes tool on Azure. Because one thing that I've learned, and I'm a technologist of old, but I think maybe Max said it earlier on, the pace of change is so quickly, it's very hard to keep up with everything that's happening. And as we've seen in Kubernetes alone, there's a lot of change in that Kubernetes lifecycle over the last few years. And honestly, Kubernetes by itself, it's a very hard system to think about deploying, managing, and administering. Thinking about how we manage the clusters, the nodes, the pods, building all that out. And OpenShift does a wonderful job of basically simplifying all of that for you and creating your management interface to make Kubernetes enterprise scale. So we're really keen to make sure we can bring that in to what we do in Azure to take some of that complexity away. So Azure Red Hat OpenShift is a fully managed instance of OpenShift on the Azure platform. And by fully managed, I mean you go into the Azure console, you say, I would like to deploy correct me, someone will tell me I'm wrong when you get to the booth outside, but I think it's a 4-node cluster of OpenShift. Click the button, fill in a few details. It will deploy the entire thing for you. It will build it out for you, automate that construction, and give you at the end of it, you'll have the OpenShift management console where you can begin managing the infrastructure without all the hassle of infrastructure deployment underneath it. But more importantly as well, is we don't just take those moving parts and say, here it is. We've also looked at what can we bring to the table? So we bring Azure Active Directory, identity management. We bring the networking security and security constraints and tools and information services built into Azure. We apply that into the OpenShift platform. So you get the best of both worlds. You get a one-button-to-click deploy. You get simplified identity management, simplified security management, and the value and the power of OpenShift all running in the public cloud as a service. So what does that kind of look like? Well, many of you would kind of recognize this sort of standardized architecture piece that if you were going to go build it today in Azure or in any cloud, I mean, largely you're looking at the same moving parts. You've got to think about the network security, you've got to build your VMs, you've got to think about your node deployment, storage management, load balancers to ensure that scale out. You need DNS management, and then of course you need the OpenShift admin console to manage and run all of that. That's what you do today. Using the OpenShift Red Hat on Azure Red Hat OpenShift platform, what we take away is all of that bottom layer, everything that you need to think about in terms of maintaining updates, ongoing management of that, networking configuration, monitoring and logging, cluster management and cluster creation. All of this is automated. All of the logging and monitoring is provided by the Azure Fabric underneath it. All of the software and updates and security management comes from Red Hat directly into Azure. And you get a fully managed, simple to run, easy to operate, faster access into running your containerized system, your OpenShift platform, without all the hassle of setting it up. And not only do you get all of that, but what you also get is a single, I think the phrase normally is the throat to choke. I prefer to say you get one hand to shake on the agreement. I think it sounds nicer. But you get to one hand to shake. You buy this, you buy it through Azure, you buy it through us through the cloud, but what we provide you is that one billing, one place to buy, but we partner, we are back-ended by Red Hat support, so the whole thing, you call one person, we work with Red Hat in the back end to manage that support process and manage the technology and manage the service being provided to you. So it's simplified. You're getting everything you want from OpenShift, the flexibility, the functionality, the constant managed, secured, and stabilized updates. You're getting everything from Azure in terms of the scale-out platform, identity, security, networking, and simple process. You're getting all of that, but you're getting it in a much more simple, easy way to deploy. So hopefully that gives you a different perspective on another way to think about OpenShift. Hopefully it gives you a sense that whilst we are Microsoft, we are humbled and privileged to be here in this room, to be part of this open source community, and we want to continue that investment and continue working with Red Hat on continued innovation in the open source space. Out at the booth today, we have a demo of all of this. You can go see it. You can go talk to Chris, and the team out there. I forgot who else is out on the stand there. A bunch of our people are out there on the stand who can show you this, talk you through it, and really get you hands-on to kind of see and feel what this really looks like. And with that, I give you 5 minutes back, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.